We're back with episode number 242 of the Metal Roundtable. Getting close to that big 250. We're gonna have to all wear our tuxes, right, Steve? You're gonna order a tux for that one, right? Yep.
I will order a tux for that one.
Right on.
The old Amazon.
Hey, so normally we have Carcass John here and Metal Rob. Those two guys couldn't make it today, so there's not going to be a Carcass John POW, no picks of the week. We're just going to get right into the interview, so you guys can, if anybody's watching live, which I think there are a few people now, leave your questions and I'll post them up as you leave them. But meanwhile, I'm going to leave this all up to Steve, and he's going to roll with it.
I guess I'll just let you guys introduce yourselves. We got Corey and John from Seether. Both have been in. Corey, how many bands have you been in? Maybe 15 over the years?
A lot. That's why we're going to extend this video so we can go through them all. Now I've been through quite a bit though, but yeah, Corey Lowery. I played bass and guitar. Started out in bass. I played bass with bands like Stuck Mojo, Stereo Mud, Dark New Day, I Empire, Santa Sonia. And guitar, but I play guitar from the beginning, writing songs and everything. And that's when I got with Seether, and I play guitar with Seether now.
So Patrick just posted "Still Rain." So
Still Rain.
Patrick,
oh man,
Patrick, post what band you used to tour with. He did sound and audio, so he knew you guys back then, and he was showing me some videos of you and your brother doing Genesis covers.
Oh, wow.
We did everything. We did everything, man. I mean, let's see. Yeah, from Genesis to Billy Joel to Pantera to Plasmatics to, it didn't matter to us. It's like, let's make some music,
Yeah.
Good music is good music.
It worked out. You guys did pretty good for yourselves. So
thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, we were kids, you're kids, and I played with my dad, started playing with my dad when I was 15. I had a metal band called Prisoner when I was 11, and I got Clint into a band. I said I wanted to start doing some stuff and just write my own songs and stuff like that. Me and Clint started writing our own songs, and it was killer. It was killer. It was a band called Quiet Thunder that formed into Still Rain.
Okay.
So
yeah, Patrick said he was with
which was cool.
July. And they played with you in Birmingham, I guess.
Yeah.
So, what Stuck Mojo albums did you play on?
Stuck Mojo, I did. Let's see, I joined during Snap and Next. Dwayne was on bass at that time, and Still Rain. Rich and Bones had kind of said, "Hey, man, would you be interested in coming over here?" We don't know if that's all going to work out. And with Dwayne did one tour, touring's tough though, and they did one tour for 6 weeks with Machine Head. And then in the middle of that tour, I guess, is where, he's, hey, look, get ready, that record just came out. And so supported that. So from there, we did an EP called Violated, I think. And then we did Pig Walk. Pig Walk was where we all kind of came in writing songs and stuff like that. I mean, it was killer. Devin Townsend, he produced it. And it was killer to have him on board. I mean, what a talent, man. Just a crazy singer, player, producer, writer, everything. So
that's when he started a lot of hair too.
Yeah, and then we did, and then we did that tour and some small things, we put out singles, stuff like that, and then we did Rising, and then after Rising came out, that's where the wrestling thing was cool, loved it, but it wasn't, I was wanting to do like a Pig Walk 2 kind of thing, and so that's what led me to just different directions or whatever, and I started Stereo Mud. Went up and jammed with the guys from Life of Agony, and it turned into Stereo Mud through 2 of the guys from Life of Agony, and we found the rest of the guys.
I just like a month ago worked on a reissue of Stuck Mojo's Rising for vinyl and CD that's coming out sometime soon.
Yeah, I just heard about that yesterday. I was like, that's cool. You know, I mean, I'm still friends with everybody, Bones and Rich and all those guys. I mean, Frank and you know, we still see each other on festivals. Rich is with Fozzy, and you know, which is cool. Chris knows that's a metalhead that knows like everything about all metal. Like he is a true metal lover and can memorize. I'm like, dude, my hard drive just doesn't. I don't even. I play it and I love it. You know, it's who I am. But it's as far as memorizing all the names, I'm like, I guess that's when I get into studio. Maybe my thing is the studio and producing and stuff like that. You know, everybody chooses what their hard drive can hold. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about you, John? I know you were in a couple bands.
Yeah, so Corey and I have been doing this about the same length of time. We even talk about it. I don't know how we didn't cross paths before Dark New Day. So I was in a band in the 90s called the Nixons, and we were all from Oklahoma and did the classic thing, you know, toured the region nonstop like Corey did, you know, slept on people's floors and played 300 shows a year. And the deal back then was the goal was to get a record deal. And we were signed by MCA, and that band did its first album with Mark Dotson, who did, he worked with Tom Allom. He worked, you know, he did Judas Priest stuff, but he did Metal Church and he did Anthrax. So he was good friends with Glenn Tipton. Glenn Tipton played on the first Nixon's album, which was kind of cool. He did a solo
That's
on the
awesome.
song.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Priest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
crazy. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I guess solo. My guitar player, we wrote this song and he had a solo he always did, but he was like, what would you think about Glenn coming in and doing a solo on this? We were like, absolutely, man.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That, you know?
Yeah. So he played on that
killer.
album.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And so, you know, it was one of those deals. We had a sort of, you know, one-hit wonder sort of situations. A big top 40 hit, a song called Sister. But it allowed me to kind of do those first things, right? You know, do an arena tour. We did, you know, Kiss's reunion tour back in the 90s, which was like a huge tour, and open shows in Madison Square Garden, all these big, you know, legendary arenas. But it was, you know, learning the business, how the charts worked, how the industry worked, how major labels work, you know, and the whole thing. And the story with the Nixons sort of bridges to Seether. So a sound engineer, a good friend of mine, started working for Seether in 2003. Nixons sort of had gone on hiatus, disbanded, whatever, about 2000. And so the classic story, Sean and Dale with a drummer from South Africa came to the States, signed to Wind Up. They did the first album. Drummer wasn't working out. Josh Freese did the first Seether album. He had a couple of hired gun sort of dudes. It wasn't working out. And my sound guy kept going, I know this drummer. I think he'd really fit the band really well. And that was in 2003. So I auditioned. And so I've been with Seether now, 21 years, I guess. So
Okay.
Wow.
Crazy.
I know. It's hard to even believe Seether's been around that long. It just doesn't seem like it's been that long.
Yeah. It's not.
When I told Corey, I was surprised.
Yeah, we all are.
I went and saw you guys in Atlanta when you played with, was it Nonpoint that you guys played with last time?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I went and saw you for that. And I missed, so I went to Japan in 97 and I was gone until 2006. So I missed all the later bands, you know what I mean? So I like the names Seether I knew, but I had never had any of the albums or anything. And then I went to the show and I was surprised. I knew like 80% of the songs just from radio play and club play and whatever else. So,
right.
No, that was a great show too. But no, I was telling Corey the other day, I didn't realize you were in the Nixons. So I saw you guys in Phoenix and Tempe. Was it Gibson's? It was like, it's a 2-story bar. The first floor is all access, and the second floor is a bar, and they're looking down. And your singer was like a madman. He was climbing the rafters and stuff, and security was trying to get him down. And it was a crazy show. I'll never forget the singer just like 2 stories up. I mean, it's not like he was just a little up in the rafters. You're talking 50 feet in the air like a madman.
Yeah.
Still singing.
Awesome. Yeah, that was Zach. Yeah, jumping. Yeah, we did that a lot.
And that was one of the, again, we knew you from was it Sister? Yeah, from Sister. That was the radio hit at the time. I can't remember if the album had come out yet or it was about to. But I was playing in some local bands at the time, and we got a hookup. We knew the guys that ran the place, so anytime there was a band playing, we would go. And you hear Sister, and then the rest of the album. When we saw you guys live, we were surprised. It's a lot heavier than the one hit. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a really killer show.
I'm gonna be right back.
Hey guys.
Yep, no worries. No worries.
And it was one of those deals where Sister, to get our record deal, Sister was already like a regional hit for us on the indie version that we had produced, recorded ourselves, right? And we sold a bunch of like 15,000 CDs on our little indie label that got major label attention. And Sister was already,
15,000
kind of the song.
That's crazy numbers for pre-internet, early 90s.
We were selling those at shows and like putting them in mom and pop stores. It was kind of a big deal. We signed with MCA. We re-record Sister, and the label MCA, good or bad, MCA, you may have heard people like Musicians Cemetery of America, was always one of those deals. Finally got absorbed into Universal, but they were cool. They didn't, why we signed with them, they were the only label that didn't like want to force Sister to be the first single. So we actually got a couple singles before Sister, which of course, like you mentioned, they're heavier, more rock. We had a song called Happy Song that did pretty well at Alternative, and that was actually the first time we were on MTV. We were on 120 Minutes. And that was a song technically before Sister, and then Sister, of course. But Sister was a good song, and it was as cool as the rocking songs were, they just weren't as good as it was, and
hey, you gotta go what pays the bills, and
it was a monster hit, and it was I don't look back on anything and God, I wish it would have differently or whatever. The experiences were what they were, and they were amazing.
Well, I always generally like the heavier stuff anyway. I was like, even the Seether stuff. I know that's not what sells all the albums. It's the more mid-tempo stuff, but it's always the heavier stuff that I'm into. But
me too. The deep tracks. I think that's really what a band's about, right? It's those deep cuts that really define a band. Not so much the singles. Usually, my favorite bands or artists, the singles aren't my favorite songs. It's those deep cuts that you never hear. I feel like that's truly.
We're always talking about, he's got the Aerosmith shirt on, all the Aerosmith deep cuts and B-sides and stuff.
Kings and Queens. That was my favorite Aerosmith song.
That's a great song.
That would rank in my top 5 too. Love that song. I mean,
Love that song. So underrated, right?
Where else did you hear a 70s hard rock heavy metal band using a banjo in their track or in their song,
Yeah.
We were just talking about go ahead, Corey.
I when I was in Still Rain, this A&R person said, "Hey, here's a bunch of new bands that are coming out and stuff," and that was the first time I ever saw Nixon's. It was like I got a cassette, and it was all the new bands that were, maybe it was with a label, probably with a bunch of labels. It was a huge box though. And that was the first time I was like, "This is cool," First of all, I've never gotten anything free ever in my life, so I was like, a bunch of music, this is like a whole box. And so we sat around. That was the first time I heard the Nixons. I was like, okay, little did I know,
Those comps
it's crazy. We talk about it all the time. It's like we don't know why we didn't cross paths. I mean, Corey was playing, and
constantly.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, but the Nixons actually, I crossed paths with Clint first. So Nixon's toured with Seven Dust on their first album, which I remember. We did a festival. It was called the Roar Tour. It's like Iggy Pop and the Butthole Surfers headlining, and Seven Dust was playing a side stage. Yeah, the crazy, and Seven Dust was killing it. So anyway, I met Clint originally that way. I joined Seether, like I said, in 2003. and then I meet Corey officially, and then see Clint again for Dark New Day when it was Seether, Dark New Day, and Crossfade. We did that big tour together, which is
That was a
to
fun
this
tour.
day,
Yeah.
my favorite tour ever. That we had so much fun. A couple of
Out
us
of
landed
control.
in rehab. You know, it was a great tour.
It was a rock and roll tour for sure.
Every bit.
We would have definitely made the Motley Cruise proud of the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
About Crossfade.
I'm going to interrupt for just 1 second and let everybody know that I just got a message on my phone from Lips from Anvil. Apparently, original Anvil guitar player Dave Allison passed away a few hours ago.
Oh wow.
What?
Yeah.
That's when they were a 4-piece, right?
Yes, original Anvil guitarist Dave Allison has passed away. Yeah, it just happened apparently. So anyhow, that's a bummer. But from what I understand, he's been sick for a while. But sorry to interrupt, but that came through. I thought. People want to know that.
Seriously, man.
Everybody thinks I'm crazy for going to all these shows, but man, all my heroes are in their 60s and 70s now. You know, they're not going to be around, even if they can't sing as well anymore. I'd rather go.
Dude, listen to this. Last night, Johnny and I were grabbing some dinner. Johnny hears a band playing out, from the street. He's like, "Oh, that's a cool, cover band. They're nailing it. It's Sting, and Billy Joel, and like they're singing sound checking. Yeah, and Sting's like, that sounds real good. Like it sounds legit Sting good. Like, and there's the giant billboard of Billy Joel, Sting, and Stevie Nicks played right beside our hotel. Stayed at our same hotel, I guess.
Yeah. And
but yeah, I mean, like, how often will we get to hear some of these bands? I mean, the young ones have been taken away from us, way too young.
Yep.
And the longer you're in the game, I guess, more like you recognize, stuff like that. But
honestly, it's amazing that most of those guys in their 70s are still alive. The drugs and the alcohol in the 70s and 80s, the fact that they're still alive and kicking.
Yeah.
But
I'm convinced that the
Ozzy is still alive.
Oh,
yeah,
it's just ridiculous.
It defies.
See the Stones. Keith Richards should not be alive.
That's the one. Keith Richards. I was going to say.
Right.
I don't think he really is alive. I think he's a corpse. He's just got so much drugs in his body. He's just twitching around. So.
Yeah.
Ozzy joked about that maybe 10 years ago or so. He said he probably would have died in the 90s if it wasn't for all the drugs keeping the cancer away and keeping all the other stuff away, But
I guess, they got to go back and conduct experiments and see what happened to how Ozzy preserved himself.
Yeah,
by everything that he did.
Well, Zach Wilder, did you hear the story about him because he was drinking like a 1.5 of whiskey a day, and he found out when he went into rehab that he had a blood clotting disorder. And the doctor said the only reason he had never seen it before is because of all the booze he was drinking. And while he was in rehab, so now he's on blood thinners for the rest of his life. But they said had he not been in rehab, he might not have made it. So and Scott, I mean, you dealt with that, Scott, too.
Mm-hmm. That's because I was doing bodybuilding. Didn't know that if you keep your body fat too low for so long, it can cause problems, and it did. Ended up in the hospital, almost died from it.
Yeah.
So wow. Yeah, you see all these buff guys walking around, but that's why a lot of these bodybuilders die early because or these wrestlers,
50s and 60s.
Yep, you got to have some body fat. It's having a 6-pack your whole life isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Cool. Crazy. We're gonna go order some pizzas then. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm all for it now.
Then I've got that covered, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. After that happened to me, and I still work out and whatnot, but I'm no more keep my body fat that low and worrying about what I eat as much. So, yeah, I enjoy me some pizza now.
With like the long-term thing, I think moderation. When we're young, we go for things. We're like, I want to lift everything. I want to punch as hard as I can do. Like
that's why my shoulders.
I think the older I get, like even with like Steve and I doing the jiu-jitsu thing, I roll so lightly now. Like I want to do this a lifetime. I want to be 80 doing this. I'd enjoy it. It just makes me happy. But if I go in there and try and act like I'm 23 and like, here's the deal: you're going to get hurt, and just keep it loose, keep it playful, and have fun. Learn, and that's the idea. Is just to learn And so, you know, I've been like injury free for the last like 2 years from just with that mindset. You know, all it takes is a couple of surgeries and you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong here? And you know, that comes with it too. But you're like,
exactly.
I'm just going to have fun with this rather than, you know,
killing myself. Yes,
you know,
exactly.
I'm a hobbyist.
Literally.
I'm a hobbyist. I'm not trying to be, you know, UFC and all that stuff. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it just gets you get a big reality check when you're sitting on a hospital bed and the doctors are all telling you you could drop dead at any moment. You could drop dead at any moment. To the point where my wife finally told the doctors, "Would you just shut up? He's not going anywhere."
Yeah, right. That's not something your wife went. Yeah.
Same thing with Johnny and I touring wise. We don't want to, you know, like it's like doing 300 days out of the year. It's just not healthy almost. You know, it's like, right. Let's pick the right tours and let's try to, you know, hit everybody, but do it smarter. That's all. Yeah.
I remember when you first started too. I was glad you told me you played guitar because he was doing stuff where, you know, you can wrist backed up and your fingers broken. So we'd get to a spot, I'd be like, all right, dude, you got to move your hands, man. You can't leave your hand.
Save me, dude. It saved me.
I got a show next week, man.
Yeah.
So I just got another text. This one came from a guy named Tim Gregory. He wants to know, he's like, I've never actually heard Seether, I don't think. Can you guys tell us what you sound like?
Ooh, that's a good
Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, it's interesting, man. We, you know, we're a rock band. Really are.
Yeah.
We don't play with tracks. We're kind of in the minority now. We just did Louder Than Live, the huge festival. And a lot of bands, good or bad, I'm not really judging on that, use tracks. And we are a live band, 4 guys that are making the music that you're hearing, or the 4 guys, you know, standing on that stage. Bad notes occasionally or whatever, missed drum hits. You know, we're the, you know, the live thing that we've always been, which is kind of a 90s deal, I guess, or just, you know, an old school thing. Corey's the freaking, I always say this, the VMP of the band. He sings, plays guitar, does backgrounds, harmony, you know, and all that stuff that usually would be tracked. Corey's doing it all in the moment and makes the band a lot better live, makes us, you know, sound the way we do.
I think there's a good chemistry, you know, like everybody loves playing off each other in the band. And if you do that right, and like, it's like, it creates a sound and stuff like that. But to answer him, I mean, we are a straight up rock band. We have heavy moments, we have light moments, and everything else in between. The new record that's out now, we got some of the heaviest tracks, I believe, that Seether's ever done. Yeah. Judas Mine.
Hold that up again. I'm going to show it. Let's see that there. There it is.
There you go. Yep, that's it. So yeah, so with that one's got some of the heaviest songs. You know, I love it. You know, Lost All Control, Illusions, Judas Mine. Some of those are. I mean, there's even more than that, but this record we're pretty proud of right now. So we just had Judas Mine number 1 on that. So that was our 4th number 1 since I've been in the band. So I'm like super pumped, you know, like thankful, you know.
Yeah.
So
there's just been different sides to the band over the years. You know, we're like Corey's talking about, that we have this heavy side to us. We've done videos in the past, have a sense of humor to it. Songs like Fake It, you know, Same Damn Life, you know, just straight ahead.
Tonight, yeah.
You know, pop rock, but you know, kind of Seether, and you know, we've had a song like Broken, which was like our first big international breakthrough, which was the actually sort of the film version. It was the first thing I did with the band. Broken was originally just an acoustic track on Disclaimer, the first album, and then they wanted to do the duet with Amy for everything for the soundtrack, Punisher, and made it sort of this big, you know, grandiose, epic thing. And that was, you know, really big international hit. So it's kind of really hard to pinpoint exactly what Seether is. I just know when Sean's voice is distinctive. When you hear Sean's voice, you know it's Seether.
His voice shocks me live too, because he gets on just almost some death metal growls, and it sounds really.
Dude,
oh man,
last night was ridiculous. Like I was like, we got a film of last night or whatever, and I was Johnny and I were watching it last night, and after the show, and I'm like, man, what in that? This is insane, dude. He's like on point tonight, like. You know, and we've toured with a lot of heavy bands. You know, I mean, from Pantera to like Deicide. You know, like I've toured with so many bands, and I'm like, oh my, I know when it's right and I know when it's wrong. You know what I mean? And he's got one of his voices just, and it's just like the record. You ever go to see a band and you're like, something just sounds like not as powerful or something. Yeah. Dude can sit right in front of your face and it sounds exactly like the record. It's like, damn, you know, it has it, you know.
So I know they're still considered a South African band, but isn't he the only one? Is he the only one that's out from South Africa, or?
Oh, Dale. He and Dale both, yeah.
Okay, they both
from South Africa. Yeah. They're both U.S. citizens now, and they live in the state. But yeah.
Yeah, people are always shocked. We were just talking about this not too long ago. Like all the guys from Raven live in South Carolina. It's amazing how many of the new wave of British heavy metal and the big bands that are famous for being from Germany or the UK live in the US now. So
even Lemmy moved here, lived in Los Angeles for
a while. Was in Phoenix.
Lived at the Rainbow.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Rob Halford moved to Phoenix in like 82 or 83. Like people have always thought he lived in the UK, but he was there the whole time. So it's always been funny.
Dell's in Georgia now. Savannah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Johnny's we're in Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Where's the band based out of?
Nashville. Management and everybody's Sean's there.
Cool. There you go, Gary Ayrton. Gary Ayrton was asking where you guys from. So
yeah.
And live is good. Yes, it is.
Absolutely, live is awesome.
Yeah, I was just in Nashville on Tuesday at is a Hollywood Bowl. Except was playing with KK's Priest.
Nice.
And that was
dude.
That's cool.
Who was it that we just did the Louder in Life, and you know when you get to a place, oh yeah, this is where we've done it a bunch of times before, but Priest was playing last time we were there. And that's when what's his face had a heart attack.
Richie.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that a couple days ago. How badass are you that you have a heart attack at the beginning of the song and you finish the song before you go off stage and they take you to the hospital? Is that the crazy?
Insane, right? That's the power of some Judas Priest, son. Like,
yeah.
And me and Corey were watching the show, high-fiving. You know, Rob Halford still sounds amazing. His voice. He also defies all science. And me and Corey, the show ends. We're like, "They're not going to do Breaking the Law? What's going on?"
I know.
Yeah.
That's
and the show was over, and didn't know until later. You know, kind of what had happened.
Oh yeah. But it's one of those bands. They have so many hits that even if they do a 2-hour set, you're going to be pissed off that they didn't play like 4 songs at the
Absolutely.
And it's always like, they're pretty good though. Iron Maiden's the one that drives me nuts because they'll do a tour where it's all hits. And then they'll do a tour where it's all newer stuff and like nobody's getting into it, you know?
Right.
Still works.
God bless them for doing newer stuff, but you know, that's tough.
So that was like a big debate when I was coming up. Like you were either Priest or you were Maiden. You had to pick there was a guy named Mike that lived across the street. He was the Maiden. I was like, but Screaming for Vengeance. Come on. Like, you know, he looked killers, and I'm like,
the only problem with that whole argument is that Maiden are big Priest guys, and they got a lot of their sound from priests. So
absolutely, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yep. No. And Thin Lizzy.
Yeah. And speaking of Pigwalk Horizon from Stuck Mojo, Andy Sneap.
We talk about Andy all the time. We're both big fans of his production.
Love him, man.
He reinvigorated Priest. That not the newest album, but what's the Firepower?
Yeah,
he was heavy involved in that one, and man, he turned them around. They were still putting out good records, but nothing was great, you know. And then Firepower came out, and he just reignited the band. Richie Faulkner had a lot to do with it too, because he was writing too. But man, that album it's my favorite album since the '80s from them. So
I gotta go back and get that and check that out.
I've heard great things.
Yeah,
Priest was my very first concert. So they're doing the Screaming for Vengeance tour, and he comes out on that motorcycle, up there in space, and points at me. I'm looking down on you, and I'm like, me? I'm like, I knew what I was going to do. At that point, I'm like, that is just too cool.
It's funny you mentioned the click track because we were just talking about it a couple weeks ago. I think it was me and Carcass about how it's ruined live show. Like, yeah, the band sounds exactly like Metallica sounds exactly the same every time you hear them now because of click track. But if you go back and listen to them from 89, 90, all their songs were faster live because they were playing with it, and it was so much better. Not to say I'm going to see them when they come here in June next year. I'll still go see them. It takes away that intensity from back in the day.
Yeah, there's an energy that happens between the band and the crowd. Yeah. And that was the tempo. That's what's kind of set the tempo. That just if they were high energy, you wanted to kind of have that it was like a harmony kind of vibe to it, to match it. So that's what's fun about not having a click and tracks and hitting play to something. It's like the whole thing's the band, the crowd's part of the band. So,
right.
And I've heard quite a few drummers that say they can't. Like I was watching something with Lombardo a couple years ago. He said he can't use them. He said it throws him off when he's playing. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Click tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, I play with enough drummers. Some drummers just can't do it. They have this kind of like give and take that it just throws them off. I mean, when we were recording our second album, man, our drummer wasted so much freaking time in the studio with that damn click track. He drummed me up a freaking wall. Then we brought in a second drummer and to in the studio and nailed it like that, no problems at all. So I mean, but I never had a problem with them live.
I used to be terrified of it, in the beginning, but I had to learn how to, especially for the studio, man. And me and Corey have been around long enough. We were tracking albums on 2-inch tape, analog tape. The best you could do to edit is maybe if your, engineer could splice tape. Otherwise, it was all like single take kind of stuff. And you had to play with the click track. I didn't want a producer, and I'm proud to say in all the years, all the albums, I've never had a producer. Well, your drummer's not cutting it, man. He's not, so I had to get over that fear and learn how to freaking play with the click. And even Seether now, there are songs that I start or I will count the guys in and play to a click myself just to kind of keep, things, because nothing worse than going back and watching video and go, God, I was hauling ass on that song, man.
Too fast.
It's just too fast. I hate that.
Well, it's like a drummer like in the studio, playing on beat, playing behind beat, playing ahead of the beat. The band's got to follow the drummer. Yeah. Right. And so it's got to have some kind of, that I like playing behind the beat a little bit. It's fun to live back there, but sometimes you have to play right with and dead ass on. And like Johnny, I think we did like 22 songs in a day and a half for Seaweed's Pocket Barrel. And I'm sitting here I'm like, when we go into the studio, I think the last place, we love the studio for one sense, but it goes so, you come in knowing it. The one place you don't, I don't want to know what a note is or where to find it. I want to think about the song, not the notes of anything. And you get to have fun. You get to express yourself. You can't express yourself if you're learning how to speak English. You know what I mean? Like, like it sounds crazy. So the better you can articulate and know your stuff beforehand. And I guess that's like Johnny said, coming from that 2-inch world, you had to. Yeah. I mean, if an engineer would look at you like, are you the worst? Like, it's so, and Pro Tools now, I do miss the rewind though. Like the times that would have happened, it was like, okay, let's hit that one more time. We're going to get, and it was just, you'd hear the tape, and during that time you're thinking, I'm never going to mess up again in my whole life. You know what I mean? So you just crush after that. And so, but now with Pro Tools, again, it's like
Pro
that's
Tools
not.
now. I mean, people our age. I remember when Pro Tools first came out. Was it like 92 or 93? Like a Pro Tools rig
way
back then, you're talking like 30 grand because it was still all component based. You know,
it was, and it
you would
sounded
have
like
it
shit.
all on the computer, but you still had to have all the equipment for all the effects and everything. And it's amazing what you can do with a laptop now. You know how many bands with a laptop are doing their whole album. You know.
But it's you if you use the like a tool that it is, you know. I mean, same thing with this AI. You know, do you let your kid, hey, do an essay for me about whatever it is, and in seconds, oh, can you make it a 10-page or 20-page essay? Boom, there it is. I mean, movie writers are starting to do this. You know, like
I've talked about that. He does album covers for a bunch of bands, and a bunch of bands are coming into him with AI generated stuff. And I was like, really? This you want to really? And he can't get them off of it, you know?
Well, listen, how fast has that come and over the last year? You know?
Yeah.
This is 1 year. 5 years from now? I don't know, man. It's like I like Kemper amps. You know, I love Kemper amps, and it's a simulation. It's a simulation of an actual amp. I have a bunch of real amps. But if you use it for the right tool, if there's a certain sound I'm not getting, go to a real amp. It's right there. But if there's a certain sound I'm getting and I got it, I'm not going to not use it because of,
all the guys I knew that swore away the Axe effects and all the other digital amps and stuff. They're all using them now. Like I said, I just saw Accept the other night. What's the? It's not the Kemper. What's the other big pedal board that everybody's using?
Let's see, Axe Effects, Kemper.
No, it's the more expensive one than Axe Effect. Anyway, but they were all using it. You know,
the technology's coming wide open.
You can't hear the difference anymore. You know, like if you've got the amp right next to a tube amp and you play them back and forth, I can hear it. But like when you're on a stage, you can't hear it anymore. It's
right.
I saw Nuno Betancourt do a thing with Rick Bell. He was talking about that. Like Nuno, huge Eddie Van Halen fan, right? Yeah. Huge Eddie Van Halen fan. And he's sitting with Eddie, with his amp. And it's just, he's sounding like Eddie, and it's that sound that he's been looking for his whole life. And Eddie says, hey, and hands him the guitar. He says, when I played it, it didn't have that sound.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was.
That's a big part of it too.
It wasn't there, like it's in the hand still. It's still going to be. It's still going to be in your hands, your throat. Like as long as that stays organic and pure, the tools are fine. But use them as tools. Don't let the tools use you.
Right.
Yeah, I remember Jeff Beck was talking about Lou Reed. He was saying Lou Reed would come over and they would hang out. And he was like, it didn't matter what guitar he picked up or what amp he plugged into it. It sounded like the Velvet Underground. He's like, it didn't matter
100%.
what equipment he had, And it is pretty interesting. All these guys will spend money on that stuff and they're just chasing that forever,
They're chase your hands. Sit on your couch or sit on your bed and
there was a good
shit
story
until that happens,
Go ahead, Scott.
Matthew N just sent me a question. He wants to know, when you record your drums, are you playing on an actual kit or are you playing on an electric kit?
I'm playing on an actual kit. So for the last 3 albums, there's a studio in Nashville called Blackbird. It's got a great drum room, and we do the drums, in the drum room. So we use an actual old, studio, acoustic drums, 1 billion mics. Corey can tell you how many channels.
Yeah.
And
we were calm this time. We only used 18 on this last one.
And I don't have a big kit. And all kinds of room options and stuff. But we use a studio, a drum room, and actual real drums to do the drum tracks. Then we'll move to an overdub studio where the guys do all the guitar overdubs, vocal overdubs. Yeah,
the drum room's beautiful in Nashville, and it's got a sound. As it definitely has Sound City, AC/DC, and the Rumors record, I went there for a record just because that drum room, that actual drum sound. Blackbird's same thing. Just a million bands have been in that room, and there's something that happens. Snares and toms sound a certain way. So it's definitely the electric thing. That's going to be a little bit longer. I hear a lot of bands put samples on drums. We try to back that off as far as possible.
That you can hear, at least because I played drums for so long, I can hear. Like, I can tell right away, usually, if it's real drums or not. But and sadly, there's a lot more bands these days that are using drum machines instead of actual drums. But
right,
especially samples. That's just with rock. That's sort of become the standard. And like Corey said, with this one, I'm proud to say we kind of really backed that off and just got real drum sounds, and which was kind of cool. So if there's little inconsistencies, I mean, it just sounds more natural.
Yeah, get a great drummer. That's going to be consistent. Johnny's super consistent. Once he starts a snare, it stays that way. The kick drum stays. It's like what a pro drummer. That's how you can hear what a pro drummer is. If you start hearing in the middle of the song, certain drums are weaker and now they're loud, and it's just you want to, that's what separates the good guys and studio drummers. Some guys can play to a click, but they don't have the energy to continue through the whole song consistency-wise. So
I've got a good friend in Phoenix that he's one of the best live drummers I've ever seen. But you get him in a studio, and his band, the band that he was in, they would bring in a buddy of his to do all the studio work because he just couldn't. He couldn't work the click track. I don't know what it is with the studio, but it just didn't.
The red button. It's got the red button syndrome.
Live,
man.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He's one of the best drummers I've ever seen live, So
yeah.
Some people are weird like that. Well, there's been a lot of bands like that. How many bands have had studio guitar players instead of that?
Or ghost musicians, right? That you 30 years later who played on what record? You're like,
exactly.
What?
Producer's like, it sounds great. I'll be right here. Y'all leave for a second.
I was watching something about what's the country guy who's in the Eagles now?
Is it the Eagles now?
Yeah, he's
don't know.
Oklahoma. Oh my gosh,
Vince Gill.
There you go.
He's been on that.
He's been on like 300 albums, and a lot of it's like hard rock and stuff that you would never guess that he was on. I mean, it's insane.
Amy Grant's husband.
Is that
right?
I thought that was Clint Black.
Nope. Vince Gill is, I think, pretty sure married to Amy Grant.
You might be right. Yeah, I don't know. But,
I have another question too. I pretty much asked this to any band that's been on the road for a long time. Spinal Tap stories. Everybody's got some funny stories. I mean, I'll share a really fast one with you. We were on the stage one time playing, and we were in the middle of a song, and we were a thrash band, so there was a lot of double bass stuff like that going on. And we were on stage in Texas, outdoors, no cover, 115 degrees outside, and we were playing the song, and all of a sudden the drummer just stops playing in the middle of the song, and I turn around and look at him. Guitar players keep going, and he looks white as a ghost. What the hell? And he does a roll, kicks it back in, and finishes it. Well, then I turn around. And I had an effects pedal that I used to do this echo on one of the songs. And I went to step on the pedal, boom, down I went. The whole band was suffering from heat exhaustion on stage because we were moving around so much and sweating. Yeah. So I just went, bam, right down to the ground. Again, I stood right back up, finished the song.
Wow.
But we finished the song, and then the stage manager came out. He's like, all right, we're going to take a break. And he made us all get off and drink some electrolytes before they let us finish our set.
Nice.
Didn't even realize
that's a real thing, man. That doing some hot shows. I didn't have it happen to me during the show, but after, I remember an outdoor show in Austin. I mean, I was seeing stars when I came off, and it was, dehydrated, but you're so hot, you're in that Texas heat. It's like you're just boiling hot, and you're doing your thing, and it's freaking, 110 degrees on stage, and you come off, and I don't know how I didn't pass out. I came close.
Phoenix was like that. There was a venue in Phoenix called Compton Terrace, which was out in the middle of the desert next to the racetrack. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Literally in the middle of the sun.
You don't sweat though.
The bands were there in June. Yeah, you weren't sweating. That was a bad thing, though.
And you're like, I'm not even sweating. I got this all day long.
Yeah, that was the first time I remember having heat stroke was there at Compton Terrace. I mean, it's just a crazy, and it's actually as a fan, it was one of my favorite places to go to a concert because it was like 30,000. It was just big and open. Saw some amazing bands there, but yeah, up on stage, man, and it's even hotter up there. The sun is blaring down on the stage and reflecting it back up on you.
Dude, I was playing Germany one time. Look at this napalm puke.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Something about Austin.
I was playing in Germany. And I think it was like this TV thing. And dude, I walk up to the mic, and it grabs my face like electric wise. I was like, zzz, and I'm out. I fall back. My tech catches me, and I kind of come back to, and I start playing again. But I'm like, I didn't even have to touch it. I could go walk toward the mic, and I'd feel that little vibration thing. I'm like, bruh, I'm gonna die up here. This is not. It bit me. It bit me hard.
Something wasn't grounded. That's weird.
Not grounded. That's in the '90s. Love the '90s, right?
That's when I was doing a lot of our shows. Yeah. I love the Spinal Tap stories. There's so many funny things that happen. I mean, if you haven't watched Spinal Tap and you're in a band, you're missing out because it's.
Dude, what do you think the new Spinal Tap's going to be? What do you think the new Spinal Tap's going to be like? So they're coming out with a new movie, right?
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Supposedly,
I'll watch it, but are any of them alive anymore?
Yeah, they're still alive.
It's all those same guys, yeah.
Oh no!
Except for the drummer. The drummers pass away every 2 weeks. So you never want to be a drummer in Spinal Tap because
they're all playing bass. That is still the best scene of any movie I've ever.
On lead bass.
And on bass drum.
On bass keys.
I think the word I had though, talking about crazy shows, when my first band, you've got one drum kit. You can't, and even that was a cheap drum kit. And I blew out my snare drum during the first song. And luckily I had a rototom because I finished the rest of the song using the rototom as the snare drum. Just ridiculous stuff,
I've had everything break, man. I've been in a show and the drum throne breaks and I just slowly go down.
Yeah.
If you can...
Well, in the old days before the cages, you would have like 7 different stands up there, and if you hit it wrong, your cymbal would fall. So drumming's come a long way too.
It has. I remember, man. I took a little money I got when I graduated high school, and I went and bought a cage actually for my kit. Yeah. I'll never forget. I had it set up. Oh, it was ridiculous. And I had it all set up and had my cymbals and my 2 chinas at 10 and 10 and 2 and doing the whole 80s thing, and my grandma looks in and goes, "When'd you get the swing set?"
That's funny.
Needless
to say, the first man I saw was the Gibraltar cage. Man, I saw that thing. I was like, I got to get one of those. They're nice, man. But yeah.
I'll share another quick one real quick too. We booked a show in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico in some Indian reservation, and we were driving in the middle of the deserts and just, where is this place? Now we're on like dirt roads. We finally get there and it's this dilapidated, beat up church that's falling down that obviously nobody is in, and there's just 2 big trailers out there put together, the flatbed trailers. That's the stage.
And we're like, flatbed shows.
Love that.
Right on. So we get there, and it was an all-day festival kind of thing. There was tons of people there. It was mostly Native Americans there, but that because it was on the reservation. And it's getting dark, and there's no lights on the stage yet. So we're like, and part of our contract was we had to have stage lights. Where's the lights at? Don't you worry. When you guys get on stage, we'll have them. Yep, that's what it was. We got up on stage. We started, just sound checking real quick, and then all of a sudden, all these old pickup trucks surround the stage with their high beams on. Wow. Here's your lights, guys.
Wow,
that's crazy.
So we ended up playing a show in front of a bunch of people in the back of pickup trucks with lights on it. So it was pretty.
I wish we would have made for a cool video, actually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it would have been. I wish we would have recorded that one, but anyhow.
It's funny though. Even the video, my daughter asked me about. She's like, "Hey, how come we don't have any video from when you were in any of your bands?" I was like, "Babe, you don't understand. A video camera in 1993 was like this big. It was like $6,000.
I'm so glad that didn't exist. I'm so glad. Like,
I'll tell you what, I'm glad they didn't have cell phones when I was a teenager, because
Yeah.
man, the crap I would have gotten caught for.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Now you got kids just putting the crap right on social media, and you're like, you're an idiot. You're going to get busted.
Yeah.
And they do.
and it's up there forever. Here's the deal: it's up there forever. It isn't like it's going to go away. It's still out there.
Even if you take it down, it's still there. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, we all got girls for the you know, and having a girl, man, it's hard to get them to understand. Hey, that that stuff. Anything you put up could come back and haunt you. You know. But yeah.
Oh yeah. And then some stuff you're like some stuff you want, some stuff you don't. You know, like I mean, that's some stuff would be cool to, like you were saying about with the car thing, to have your show and that out there. You know, that would be cool. But that other thing you did the next Friday, probably you don't want up there.
Or what you did after that show, you know. But
cool. We're getting close to the end. Does anybody have? I just want to ask anybody who's watching, because there is quite a few people watching. If you have any questions, you need to get them now, because we only have about 5 minutes left. Sorry, Gad, you can keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Hey, listen, I definitely you guys need to talk to Johnny about some albums, because you guys got a lot of albums. I know he's got what do you got, your discard or thing? You're moving some record stuff around, Johnny?
Yeah, I use Discogs a lot, and when I'm home, I have a Discog store. I've been doing some record shows when I'm home and selling records online and
I'm
stuff.
doing the same thing. I've got like 4 boxes right there for the next record show.
You guys could probably not even have to communicate with anybody and switch your 10 tons of albums out. You know, like
just buy and sell to each other.
Yeah. Well, what it is, because I'm running out of room, my floor, I mean, you can see in the background there. I mean, that's 3 small piles. There's like 7 big piles over there. And I'm just out of room. So I'm going through. Yeah.
Big piles like this, you mean?
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you this.
Have a pile.
That's hilarious. So what was is the new Metallic, Johnny? What I was saying, Johnny, what is an album that's kind of hard to find right now? And he was saying the new, like the early Metallica.
Yeah.
Early Metallica is a tough one.
They're going for $300-$400 now too. It's insane.
Yeah, they go for big money, and it's I actually finally
Which is
got,
weird.
and I'm trying to put together the original 80s press. So this is a first press Masters 86 Electra, which it was a good price, fair price, great condition. I'm kind of picky on condition. I like the vinyl to be clean and the cover to be clean, this and that. But the original Metallica stuff, man, it's expensive. If you want it to be.
And Stranger Things, I tell you what, I had 3 copies of that. I had 3 copies of that record, all originals. And after Stranger Things came out, they shot up to like $500. So I threw 2 of them online right away. I've still got 1 of them, but I was like, because I knew it would go down right after that. You know how that is. But
I can name like all my albums I've ever owned on like this many hands. Like one was The Sound of Music. Don't make fun of me, man. That was like I thought it was the best. Absolutely. And then I got like let's see, I got The Game, Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance, and then Kiss. And then I did one that I didn't like. I bought it because the album cover. I was like, okay, I'm going to get the heaviest thing I can find. So I walk in the store, Paradise back then, and I pull up, and there's a Viking on it. I'm like, this is going to be so heavy, and it was Molly Hatchet. I was so disappointed, man. I'm like,
right.
Flirting with Disaster.
Yes. No, the one with him. No, the one that he looks like Conan. Like with the.
Oh yeah,
that's
that was the flirt with Disaster. So I thought this was going to be the heavy. I mean, I was bragging to everybody, like, dude, you got to come to the house. It's game over. I know I found it. No, it was it was like it wasn't even heavy as Leonard Skinner to me. So I was like,
camera to face that way, but.
Yeah, there's the wall.
Yeah,
and that's not even half of it. That's it's insane.
So what
Someone
year?
asked-
Let me ask you all three, since y'all are collectors. What year did you start collecting?
1975. I was a kid in grade school.
I
Grade
always
school.
have. So I collected tapes in the 80s, probably starting in like 84. I started collecting tapes. And then once I had money for CDs in like 91, I moved to CDs. But I always had records here and there. But since like 2004, it's just been records. I've got a wall of
2004.
CDs too, but I'm getting rid of them because 90% of it I've got it on vinyl, and I don't need copies on CD anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the
No,
first thing I
never
got
fun.
into was vinyl. That was the that's what we listened to. My parents had a turntable. I got into vinyl. But then in the 90s, I got into CD. So that's why I don't have any of the Metallica the original Metallica on vinyl. I'm having to go back and get it because that's when I had CDs. I still had a vinyl collection. And every time my wife and I moved to an apartment, new house, whatever, I took them with me. But yeah, that's about right. About 2004, 2005, when vinyl started to make kind of a comeback and the record stores started coming back, I got back into it.
I did it by accident. This was the earlier days of eBay, and I ordered. Oh, there you go. And I ordered White Zombie, Make Them Die Slowly off of eBay, and I thought I was ordering the CD, and the record came. So I was like, I didn't want to get rid of it, so I called my dad, and I've still got the receiver right there.
Nice.
That was my dad's receiver from 80s.
Wow.
It still blows away anything. I bought like this $4,000 receiver like 2 years ago. This Pioneer I can't even point at it. Right there, blows away these new $4,000 or $5,000 receivers. But
wow.
Yeah, love
I
Pioneer.
got it from my dad's attic, took it to a guy out here to restore it, and I've just been buying records again since then. So
yeah,
it's fun.
Johnny, we'll have to have you
It's
back
fun.
on. We do a lot of on this channel. We do a lot of just showing off record collections, and we have like themes. All right, we're gonna pull out our favorite records from 1971 or whatever, the different themes. We'll have to have you on just to do that. Yeah, because we have a lot of fun with that. So
that'd be perfect.
So what? My Sound of Music didn't impress you? What's the deal? Like,
no, man, I love Sound of Music, man.
You know what's funny about Sound of Music? My stepmom knew that I was into collecting, so she went to Goodwill and she's like, "Oh, I found you the best records." I'm just rolling my eyes because I know what it's going to be. It's like 3 Kennedy speeches, like a Korean Sound of Music.
yeah.
And you don't want to make them feel bad, so you're like, "Oh, thanks." Yeah, you know.
So listen, when I was growing up, I had this guy named Joey Miller who would get imports.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know what so we got he would get records before anyone had even heard them yet. And we had this one store that would, it was super cool owner, would try to find all this stuff because he knew that, Joey and a few of the other people were they would find the new music. I mean, I heard that. I'd find Motley Crue. That's how I first heard of them, But I remember it saying import across the front of it. I'm like, wow,
But not just that. We used to tape trade back in the 80s, like Hit Parader, all the metal magazines in the back would have addresses that you could tape trade with people. And I learned about Sepultura from a mixtape I got from some guy in Spain that I used to trade tapes with,
That's such a cool community, man.
It's not like today where you can just go online. I hear all these young guys talking about, "Oh, how are you not into this band in 1987?" Unless you lived in that area, you didn't know about that band. Everything was so regional back then.
Yeah.
And but tape trading, it was huge back in the day. It was pretty cool. And
I 1978 went to my mom's aunt's house or her sister or whatever, my aunt, for Christmas, and she's like, "I bought you 2 records for Christmas." I really wanted Ted Nugent Double Live Gonzo. I just wanted that album so bad.
I think that was right there too.
That's the one. Yep. And anyhow, so I got there and we opened our presents up, and she got me 2 records. So she got me Blondie and Ted Nugent Double Live Gonzo. And
Blondie's nice.
Blondie was great.
Awesome. Killer.
Here's the deal. So we get in the car on the way home, and my mom's like, "I know what's on that record that your aunt gave you. I want that album." She said, "You may not keep it." All right, Mom, I'm sorry. I gave her the Blondie record. There you go.
Yeah. Blondie.
Well, I mean, I gave her the Blondie record, so we're good.
I had a grandmother like that. I had a Christmas, I remember, it would be like 79. And she got me Kenny Rogers' Greatest Hits, Bee Gees' Spirits Having Flown, and Kiss Dynasty. And the Kiss one's the only one I cared about,
Yeah. I remember going to, they would have a little table of cheap cassettes in the grocery stores back in the 80s. And I remember getting the Wasp cassette and bringing it to my mom. And I could tell, look on her face that I wasn't getting it, but yeah, that was the first album cover like that she was like, nah.
What?
So I love the mixtapes.
I love that.
I could get away with the mixtapes though, because the mixtapes would just say the band names and maybe a couple small pictures.
Didn't have the art.
I could still get the same music. I just had to do it through the mixtapes back then.
The albums seems like they're big now, Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say my parents were pretty cool. They knew that I was into the music, even though I had Iron Maiden posters on my wall. And they actually, one Christmas, my aunt got me, Shout at the Devil with the pentagram on it, But they knew that I was into the music and they were cool about it. But because I loved all those bands genuinely. But my parents were pretty cool. I had friends with parents that were not, that artwork wasn't copacetic,
Yeah, I came from a music family, so they were cool. They just did the pentagrams. My mom would lose it for, like I had on the wall, and I would always have to cover up, have them overlap each other to cover up certain stuff. You know what I mean? But other than that, they didn't care about the music. They just didn't want to see it.
Right. And then you got Gene Simmons poster. I had a giant Gene Simmons poster of blood all down the front.
Yeah, your whole room had to have that, right? Your whole room had to have all that,
And what's funny, so my grandfather was an old
Yep.
country guy in the 50s, and
Like
you
that.
hear the stories from you hear the stories from those country guys in the 50s. It's just as crazy as the metal guys were in the 80s.
Oh,
man.
yeah, those
100%.
guys. Good Lord.
100%.
They were Motley
Nuts,
Crue
yeah.
before Motley Crue.
Oh, yeah. He's got stories. So he shared the stage with Hank Williams a couple times. And he said Hank Williams would be so drunk they would have to carry him on stage and set him in a chair. And then he would play the most amazing show, and then you'd have to help him off stage. I mean, think how much you have to drink to kill yourself at 27, or 28, whatever he was.
Right.
But crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, the satanic panic of the 80s.
Oh, yeah. That was
There was some great shows online about. I learned about a lot of bands because of that kind of stuff, though.
Yeah.
They put out these things about the bands you need to stay away from. And you're like, that's
I need to check that out.
I just had all the PMRC stuff too in the late 80s. Same thing. I learned about a lot of bands from that,
Stuck Mojo was the first time I ever had an album, and I thought with that, that's when you originally made it. And you've had the albums and Seether, man. We have so many albums, different colors, and it's just embracing that whole community, man. It's like it's because there's a community. I love that it's back out, kind of,
That's huge. It's insane.
That the artwork, you can see the artwork. It's not just this tiny thing anymore,
That's the main thing Scott does. He takes the CD artwork and blows it up so that it actually looks good on the albums, because a lot of labels are real lazy about that. They just kind of blow it up with a printer and it looks like shit.
Looks like shit. Yeah.
So that's
an amazing time. But digital music, Spotify is like where you go to listen. But at the same time, this physical media, vinyl, is just like huge right now. And a lot of artists do the bundles, like Corey was talking about. We do the different color variants, only so many of certain colors, and fans will buy one of every one,
Yeah, that's
crazy.
We have some friends that are I'd rather spend money on different records, but we have a couple friends that will buy 10 copies of the same record to get every single color. How
many times have you done that with Kiss, right?
Kiss was
like the creators of that stuff, right?
I've probably sold 200 Kiss records because I had so many copies of all of them. Same thing with Iron Maiden, same thing with Metallica. I'm to the point, my collection's so big, I can't have 8 copies.
Colored vinyl.
Look at this.
That's cool.
Love it.
That's it's called Purple Haze, so it's a clear vinyl with purple smoke in it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they make
just got this.
That is cool.
So Gary's asking if there's a connection between Jericho and Stuck Mojo. He's from here in Atlanta, so.
Yeah, I mean, we played down. We were out on tour with Testament the first time I met Chris. And when I was in Stuck Mojo, we played down there and met Chris, and he was just a big metal fan, huge fan of metal. And when we did the Rising record, with DDP and all those guys, Rich got to know a bunch of those guys, and I think him and Chris and Rich hit it off, and Chris wanted to be in the rock band. Ultimately, I mean, that's part of what he wanted to do, and Rich loved the whole wrestling side and was a killer songwriter. So I think it was a cool marriage between those two guys.
Stuck Mojo was a cool band. A lot of the bands that had guys rapping up front, they all followed the same kind of the same kind of sound, but with Stuck Mojo, you guys had that almost a Southern sludge sound. And you guys had a legit rapper as your front man, as opposed to some of the other bands where, they had a rock guy rapping up front, and it sounded like shit. You know what I mean?
Fred Durst came up to Atlanta before putting Limp Bizkit together and said, "Hey man, love you guys, man. I'm gonna put a band together just like that." And like same with Rage Against the Machine, we were before all these bands, but you either loved it or you absolutely hated it. And I think, and I tell bands that to this day, be in a band that people love you or hate you. No one gives a shit about like.
Yeah.
That's true. And no one buys like.
The funny thing about Limp Bizkit, it's one of those bands everybody talks shit about, but every time they do a show, it sells out and everybody's
That's right.
It's so ridiculous. It's crazy stuff.
Well, I just went to see Korn and who did they play with? The French guys. Gojira.
Oh, Gojira.
Yeah. One of my favorite bands live right now is Gojira, but I saw them with Korn, and I hadn't seen Korn since '90. Their very first tour, they were the opener on the bill, so it was like '94 maybe, with them, Flotsam and Jetsam, and Megadeth. And I know guys that were at that show with me that if you ask them now, that I never liked Korn, I always hated that band, they've always sucked, and but those same guys you'll see singing along to the songs, and it's funny that dynamic in the metal community,
Absolutely, man. I mean, just to watch everybody still doing it. We just did some shows with Five Finger and a bunch of other bands were on it. From Korn just to all these festivals, really we get to hang out with each other and say, damn it, we're still doing it. And it's good everyone still has that hunger and like wants to be out here making it happen. So,
the cool thing about the festivals too. So I almost every couple of years I go to what's the big one? Rockville? Is that the one in Florida there?
Rockville or Earth Day Birthday. Yeah, Earth Day Birthday. And in Florida.
The cool thing about Welcome to Rockville is everybody's staying in the hotels. So, the bands are usually there for a couple of days. So if you've never met a lot of the bands, you'll see those guys in the hotels, and most of them are real cool about hanging out with people. And
that's like we've done the Shipwrecked, right?
Yeah, those are cool too. Yeah, I've never done one. But I've heard good stories.
Yeah. And the fans are very respectful, and you can talk, and they don't bother. But you can hang out, and the bands hang out, and we did those 2 or 3 times. It was always good for us. Those do pretty well.
We've got a buddy that he's in a band now, but he got to be friends with a bunch of those guys. He does the cruises every year. He does like 2 of them, and like the Opeth guys, whenever they're in town, they stay at his place. You know what I mean? It's crazy the relationship you can build and stuff like that. But stuff that didn't exist back in the day. You couldn't get around the bands a lot of the time.
Right. They were sort of this mythical thing, bigger, larger than life, really, and. If you were lucky if you saw them on TV, and then when you saw them in concert, you're like, "Holy crap! I'm breathing the same air my heroes are breathing right now." It was really a special thing to see, your favorite band live.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I loved about the '80s bands is they looked ridiculous, but it was a larger than life show, and it wasn't just everybody staring at their sneakers on stage. So,
right.
But hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but I need to interrupt real quick. First of all, there's been a bunch of course, everybody's asking questions now that the show's over, but someone asked me how many pieces of music I own. I have no idea. I just tens of thousands. It's just more than I can even tell you. So I don't know. And then somebody asked about the anvil thing, and I don't know how I don't remember exactly what I said, but yes, he did send out a mass text, and I was in part of that mass text. So he didn't send me a personal text. Whoever was upset about that. So yeah, I just wanted to. What is this, Scott? You chewing? No, I don't know what that means. But chewing, is that like tobacco? No, I don't chew tobacco. I don't do any tobacco products. I keep my lungs as clear as possible. So too many people in my family died from cancer. I don't need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
Repo said that he can't find the Seether vinyl out there. I think it's all been reissued recently within the last couple of years, hasn't it? The Seether album.
Yeah, pretty much the catalog is out there except one album, Holding On to Strings, is the only one, and hopefully it'll eventually be released. But yeah, everything's out there on vinyl, the whole catalog.
Cool. Well, we're still getting more comments, of course, now. Anyhow, cool. I will let you guys off. We'll end it here. I don't know if you guys have seen the show before, but the way we end the show is we all do at the very end we say metal will prevail, and the guy who usually does this does it better than I do. So let me find the banner to get us out. If you guys want to hang out for just 10 seconds after the show's over, just so I can get some information to you. So, but that's it for episode 242 of the Metal Roundtable. And as we always do it, Steve, you ready?
Yep.
Metal
will
prevail.
Metal will prevail.
There you go.